Hey guys, welcome to Motorides, the channel where you get the no-nonsense reviews of all the latest cars and motorcycles. It's not been a very conducive day to shoot. We went out for a ride and by the time we came back it started pouring. As you can see, I'm half wet. The motorcycle is dirty and we could not even shoot at the point where we wanted to. However, we have a very large store of information to share with you about this new motorcycle. And to start off, we'll get done with the primary question that all of you have been asking, and that is the Classic 350 or this one. Now, purely from a technical standpoint, there are three differences between the two motorcycles, and let's get done with those. Understand that these two motorcycles are exactly the same in terms of the engine, the performance, the chassis, the suspension, the exhaust. Heck, even the weight of the two motorcycles is almost the same at about 195 kgs curb. The difference, when you sit on the motorcycle, the Classic 350's handlebar is slightly lower down and you will put your weight slightly more on the palms, and which is something that I personally like. So if it's the Classic 350 or the Bullet, for me personally I'll go with the Classic because I don't have a history with Royal Enfield. I have never been a big Royal Enfield fan in the past. So in that sense, the more functional of the two motorcycles is probably the Classic 350. But if you're someone who's more steeped into the Royal Enfield's history, if you're someone who wants something which has a richer heritage, then the Bullet definitely aces the Classic 350. This one is more classic, more than the Classic, and it has a richer history. It looks more simplistic, and it is definitely a little bit more vintage value for someone who appreciates it. The second difference is the seat foam, and the moment you put your posterior on this seat, you realize that there is more foam on the seat. So if you're someone who likes to have more foam, more comfort on the seat, then this motorcycle is the one to go for. Third is the seat height. So this one is 5 mm more than the Classic 350. So if seat height is something that is of matter to you, then this motorcycle is slightly taller, and for the shorter ones amongst you, probably the Classic 350 would be a better option. So these are the three main differences between the two motorcycles, technically speaking. Apart from that, there are visual differences, and then it's entirely up to you as to which of the two motorcycles appeal more to you. So that was about the technical differences between the two motorcycles, and now let's talk specifically about this motorcycle. Now again, I have talked about every single nut and bolt on this motorcycle in great detail when I did the Classic 350 review, and these two motorcycles are so similar that you can go and check out the Classic 350 review on Motorides and you'll have a fantastic understanding of this motorcycle. I am not going into those depths again. However, let's have a cursory look at what all does this motorcycle have. It's a robust metallic body and fender is metallic. Front is a 300 mm. You have a dual channel ABS on the mid and the top variant. The base variant has drums at the rear and a single channel ABS. At the rear you have a 270 mm disc on the mid and the top variants. 41 mm dia front suspension with 130 mm travel. You have a halogen lamp here, no LED lights. It doesn't come with an LED DRL. It gets these two Tiger Eye pilot lamps. Again, the blinkers are bulbs, so the things have been kept as classic as possible. At the rear also, the blinkers are bulbs, and the light, which is the tail light, is an LED from what we have been told. Now since I have fired up the engine, you would also do well to have a listen to the exhaust. Now understand that there is regulation, and for those of you who want to compare it with the exhaust of the old Bullet, it's never going to match up because the government won't allow Royal Enfield to have it as loud. However, it's pretty similar to the Classic 350. Have a listen, and this is probably as good as it gets with a single and with the regulations in place. Is it loud enough? No, but in today's day and age, this is probably the best you can get. Talking still about some of the features, the switch gear is the same as the Classic. We have seen this before on the Meteor as well. So you have high beam, low beam and the pass. Turn indicators, this is the horn. And you have the ignition kill, and you can turn the ignition on. You have a hazard switch here. So all of that is pretty good. The mirrors are pretty sturdy, they are pretty wide too. I don't have any complaint against them. They're reasonably functional and you get a ton of accessories, so you can replace them if you wish. You can replace the seat, you can replace a lot of other things, the foot pegs, you can put a windscreen up here. So there's a whole ton of accessories. You can also have a crash guard in various different shapes and sizes. So all of that is there. Now, obviously this is a Bullet, so you don't have a tacho, and you have this classically styled speedo here with neutral, turn indicators, battery, ABS light, engine light, and you have a very minimalistic kind of a digital instrument console with a fuel gauge, a trip meter, and this button here can be used to cycle through the trips. So you have 2 trip meters, then you have a clock, and then you have the odometer. You don't have much information here. This is the ignition slot, handle lock, and this is the key. And here you don't have a tripper, doesn't come as a standard. You probably can have it as an accessory. We have not been told anything about it. The clutch is on the heavier side, so if you're going to be riding in stop-start traffic, the clutch is going to be a bit of an issue. Tank is 13 liters and the fuel efficiency would be about 40 kilometers or thereabouts to the liter. 5-speed gearbox. The seat is very comfortable for the pillion as well. The grab rail is very usable, and it's a classic template. They have not screwed around with something which has so much history. So by the looks of it, it's not very different, and unless someone has a keen eye, he won't probably even be able to tell whether this is the new Bullet or the old Bullet. So it's very simple. And these golden stripes that you see here, yes, they're still even now hand painted, so that part of history has not been changed. Now coming specifically to the performance of this motorcycle, like always, I tested it to the hilt and I realized that there is no difference in terms of performance as compared to the Royal Enfield Classic 350. And just like that motorcycle, in the first gear this will reach 50, in the second it will reach 80, in the third gear this will be hitting 100, and the fourth gear will take you to the top speed of 122 kilometers per hour. The fifth gear is kind of an overdrive and it falls short of the top speed of 122 kilometers per hour. In terms of tractability, very tractable, very torquey in the middle of the revs. In the fifth gear itself, you can ride it from 30 kilometers per hour. In the fourth gear, from 25 kilometers per hour. And in the third gear, you can ride it from sub 20 kilometers per hour speed. So very tractable. The gear shifts are good. The suspension to me is slightly on the firmer side, like it was on the Classic 350. Feels very nice to ride on a highway. If there are broken patches, you do feel a slight vertical movement. So it can be slightly softer in my opinion. Even at the softest of the settings, it feels slightly firm to me, but for the heavier ones amongst you, this motorcycle would feel nicer. Also, if you load it up with a pillion, it feels a little bit nicer to me. The handling is pretty good, it's reliable, it feels very stable on a straight line. Around the corners also, it feels very much like the Classic. It's a lot better than the Bullets of yore, and the chassis now has more rigidity to it. It feels nicer, tauter. However, if you are really heavy and if you want to be going fast around corners, there is a bit of a flex. But that's okay. I think braking is good but not great. It's not as sharp as some of the more focused sport bikes, but it does stop in reasonable amount of time because it doesn't have a very high top speed, although the weight translates into momentum and it takes a bit of a time before it comes to a halt. So I could have done with slightly sharper brakes. Now in terms of variants, you have 3 variants to choose from. You have the basic variant where you have 2 colors, a military red and a military black, and there you have the starting price of 1,73,000 rupees ex-showroom, of course. And there are a lot of differences, so the color is not as rich in my personal opinion, and all these adornments that you have here are replaced by a more simplistic Royal Enfield white colored logo. That motorcycle also doesn't look as classic as the higher variants. Talking of the higher variants, this is the mid variant, and seems like this maroon color has taken the fancy of a lot of people. They have been loving it. We also like it. So in the mid variants, you have this maroon and you also have another black. So both are glossy, and this variant is 1,97,000 rupees ex-showroom, and I personally believe that this is the most value for money variant because it looks like a proper Bullet, and if you go higher up, you don't get any extra features. So on the mid variant also, you will get everything in terms of the features and functionalities. You will get dual channel ABS, which is the primary differentiator. On the base variant, you have a drum at the rear and a single channel ABS. Now the top of the line variant is 2,15,000 rupees, which is a heavy price to pay only for the color, and it's called the black gold. But that color is very different. It has a mix of matte and gloss. So in the middle you have gloss, on the side you have matte, and it really requires about 3 times more time to process, a lot of hard work. And also I think Royal Enfield wanted to make sure that the people who go with the black gold are distinguished enough, because they are paying 20,000 rupees only for the paint. So not every Tom, Dick and Harry can spend that kind of money only for paint. So I think they have deliberately kept the price of the top variant high. You will not get any extra features. The difference between this and the top variant also is the fact that a lot of chrome elements like the mirrors, the buffed engine casing and the exhaust, all of that is black there, not chrome, unlike here. So those are the differences. And of the two motorcycles, coming back to the initial question, I think technically there is no difference. If you're someone who is younger, just wants to be seen on a Royal Enfield motorcycle, wants to turn heads riding something classic, the classic does just fine. But if you're someone who is more interested in the Royal Enfield history, if you're someone who understands the importance of this brand called the Bullet, the survivability of it, this motorcycle has some tremendous travel stories. It has gone around the world, and it got broken, it got mended, and there are hardly any other motorcycles in the world which would have created such stories. So there's a lot of history which is associated with this brand, and if you really value that, then the Bullet is the motorcycle to go. On a whole, this is not a perfectly modern motorcycle, but a modern iteration of a classic, and in that sense I think Royal Enfield have done a fantastic job of it. They have not tinkered around too much with its form, which is fantastic. The engine is refined, it's very, very smooth, it's efficient. The pricing is slightly on the higher side, according to me, could have been a little bit better. But for a motorcycle which is so steeped in history, I think there's nothing wrong with it. I really hope that I was able to summarize this motorcycle in an understandable manner for you. If you like the video, hit that like button, subscribe to Motor Rides, share this video with your friends, and until next time, this is your friend Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and ride safe.